So today we're in Matthew chapter 14, starting in verse 25. We see here that Jesus has already fed 5,000 people altogether, not including women and children. And the disciples are riding on this high of being able to see this messianic miracle just happen right before their eyes, that they've never seen anything like this before. And right as the crowd starts to rise up and say, Jesus, become our king, he gets wigged out by this because he is not about that. And he dismisses himself and the disciples, and they start traveling again. He tells the disciples, get in this boat and go to Capernaum, and I will meet you there, and I'm going to walk on foot. And so they're kind of confused by this, but they get in the boat anyways, and they start traveling. And it's nighttime, and it's stormy. And so they are in the middle of a storm, quite terrified, and they look out on the water, and they see this. So let's start in 25. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they cried, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it's I, don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, and he was afraid and began to sink and cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down, and then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. This is such just kind of an embarrassing moment for Peter in front of all of his friends. He steps out of the boat. He's going to do this great act of faith to follow Jesus. And what happens? He starts sinking and he embarrasses himself. But I think there's something pretty profound in this story, other than the obvious that these two guys are walking on water. You notice that Peter, who is referred to as the rock, doesn't sink like a rock. He sinks slowly. He begins to sink slowly. And this is a sign that the reason that he was able to walk on the water is not because really of his own faith. It's because Jesus was allowing the water to hold the weight of Peter. And once Peter saw these circumstances around him, the wind, the crashing waves, he began to lack faith. And so Jesus really allowed him to start sinking. And in this, we start to learn that we can't allow our faith to be built upon our circumstances. And we can't allow our faith also to be built on our own faith. We can't have faith in our own faith because it's a circular motion that doesn't take us anywhere. Our faith has to be built on the words and the acts of Jesus. And so if we're going to learn anything from Peter today, it's got to be that his faith was not in Jesus and what Jesus was saying. It was in his own circumstances and in his own actions. And that's why he started to sink. So we see here, Jesus is allowing him to sink. And I think he does that with us all the time. He allows us to sink because we'll eventually, hopefully, reach out and cry for Jesus. We'll stop relying on the things of the world. We'll stop relying on the things that we put our faith in. And we'll reach out and cry out for Jesus. Jesus, save me. And that's what Jesus wants. He allows that to happen for our own good and for the displaying of his power. So if you feel like you're sinking, maybe you have to have that instinct to reach out to the closest thing to you. And that's Jesus. Hopefully, we can all do that today. Have a good day, church.